Hello everyone, it's Paul Vincenti here, and I have a message to anyone in the workplace who needs to deal with questions. Okay, so it could be you hold meetings or presentations and you have difficult questions which you need to tackle, right? They could be questions with colleagues on a one-on-one basis, or you could be a frontliner dealing with customers who pose difficult questions to you. There are a number of ways you can deal with demanding or difficult questions. And in the training that I do, I go through a series of these to help people have a full toolkit of the different skills and competencies that help them get through these awkward, sometimes uncomfortable situations with people. Situations such as, for example, when somebody asks you a very aggressive question and it's a public question in a meeting, for example, and you're running that meeting, or you're on the receiving end of that question, but you're not running that meeting. It's stressful. How do you deal with that? Because if your goal is to maintain peace and less heat and more light and therefore more cooperation, taking it personally or coming across as very defensive or even attacking, becoming aggressive in return, doesn't do that. It does pretty much the opposite. So one way of dealing with that is reflect and deflect. So if you're in a group scenario and somebody asks you a question which is difficult, challenging, almost, aggressive, sometimes by reflecting, which is like going, okay, that's a good question. And what you're saying is very important. We need to think about this, look at this, consider this, and then I deflect. I then turn to someone who I may think is an ally, someone who thinks like I do, or is likely to bring some kind of a calming or a balancing factor into the situation. And I ask somebody else to answer that question. That's the reflect and deflect technique. It'll get you out of trouble almost every time in that type of situation. The other questioning technique or technique in handling questions, which universally can be used by frontliners in customer care, salespeople, managers of people, is how do you deal with not necessarily answering a question given to you or posed to you which you don't want to answer? How do you handle that without coming across as if you simply don't want to answer that question? The skill I would teach you in training through role-playing also, it would be to throw the monkey. So anyone that I've been coaching recently is very familiar with this technique. They're using it very effectively already in the workplace. And what this means basically is if somebody asks you a difficult question and you don't know how to answer it, you're afraid that by answering the question given to you, you may incriminate yourself in some way. The way to deal with it is to tell the person who asked you the question that you didn't understand the question. Could you please rephrase that? Or what do you mean by that? I didn't understand what you mean. So you gave basically winning time to think of an answer and reply to the question, which you understood the first time. And what you're doing is buying time by asking the person who asked you the question to rephrase the question. So as they're rephrasing the question, and generally they do so at more length because they feel they have to be more specific, you're formulating your reply, which gets you out of jail free. Those two techniques are extremely important in the workplace, whether you're dealing with customers who are complaining or very demanding, whether you're a manager of people dealing with groups of people in meeting scenarios. there are many more than techniques in handling questions, which of course I haven't got the time to cover in this live stream, but do use them, practice them. Get to the stage of development which we call the unconscious competence stage, where you are unconsciously competent at using these sort of skills in situations that arise from nowhere. If the only way to get there is to practice them, and you can practice these techniques in all sorts of situations. They don't necessarily have to be with people at work or with your customers. They can be with your friends and family members. The whole point is that you're practicing the technique to allow it to embed within you, so you get some a type of mental muscle memory, yeah? So that when you need it, it's there. That's me signing out. If you need more information about these types of things, whether it's management and leadership training, right down to frontline, then contact me. I'm here to help. Paul Vincenti at pvmalta.com. So www.pvmalta.com. Thank you. Have a great weekend. I enjoyed this.